Showtime.
It's about that time.
Let's go.
You're right where you need to be. This is GCOM Radio.
Hardest radio station on the planet. Yeah.
Powered by Lyfeblood.com.
We certified.
And hosted by Nova Phoenix.
Give them that flavor.
Okay, folks, all right. Yeah, what is the deal? What is going on? What is the happenings? We are back for another show. Yes, for this week. It is good to speak to all of you. As usual, I'm always late with the date. I mean, let me tell you something. I was so good. I was very disciplined in having a show out every Wednesday for a couple years. And then, in my exploration of checking out different podcasts and shows on YouTube, and I found out that not a lot of people keep to a specific date. Some do, when it comes to their live shows, but a lot of them don't. And one of the things that when I was reading up on podcasting early on was to always kind of keep a solid date to release your show. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. I'll stay consistent. I did for many years. But then, as I said, I was watching all these shows, and the people that I would listen to on a consistent basis, they put out shows when they could put out shows for when they could. And I was like, man, why am I was feeling so bad and terrible when I didn't keep to my Wednesday, because, originally it would be released every Wednesday. And then I was like, things happen in life, everything that outside of what I do here. And sometimes you may not make that release date for the podcast. And I was like, you know what? It is what it is. If I launch it Thursday, if I launch it Friday, and I kind of told myself, as long as I just get something out every week, I did what I had to do, and don't bang up on myself so hard. So this is going to be released to you guys today, and of course I will make one every week. This is the 174th show. I am loving this, and I've been thinking about it recently, what I'm going to do for the 200th. And I've been doing it pretty consistently, and I like doing it. I like talking to people and sharing ideas and kind of inputting new worldviews and concepts. And hopefully I can challenge your own mind to kind of inspire you to do other things and to do your own research. And hopefully I can open up your worldview and say, wow, I didn't know that before. And a lot of times I think to myself, the books that I've read and a lot of articles and the variety of different viewpoints that I have exposed myself to over the years, I assumed that people, that this information would be getting out to the masses and people would be aware of this knowledge of this information. And, I can't say I talk to people out there and they'd be like, yo, who was that? I'm like, what? And these people are like, the books that I've read are like decades old. They're like two decades old, from the 80s, the 70s. And I thought, and I'm speaking specifically to the Black community, I thought this was common knowledge, and it's not. So, I have to tell myself, just because I read that book a couple of decades ago, does not mean that everyone knows it. So if I have to tell myself, just share it, share the people, and because there are going to be people out there, especially the younger folks that are tuning in to GCOM Radio that are 18, 19, 20, they may not know. So it's important that I kind of fill them into the same information that I was exposed to, and leave it up to them to really take their journey of knowledge and self-discovery on their own to levels where they have never thought that they can go to. So yeah, I'll definitely share some things. So I'll try to keep this thing short as usual with my show. I usually hover around an hour. I think I'm going to do like a half hour, and it doesn't turn out like that. But, it's all good. I'm going to get right to this information and get the show going. Yes, I am your host, Noah Phoenix, on GCOM Radio, on iHeartRadio. And we're going to bring the first topic that I always like to share with you. For those that have passed away, I like to put their names out there in the world, into the universe, and know that the community, especially the hip-hop community, cares. The 90s hip-hop artist Hurricane G, her name was Gloria Rodriguez. She died from lung cancer, unfortunately. And Tame One, Raheem Brown from the Artifacts, the 90s hip-hop group that he partnered with El Da Sensei, died, unfortunately, from a cocktail of prescription drugs. And they say weed. I don't know how weed, and you never know. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what THC can do to clash with other drugs. But they said that he had a cocktail of prescription drugs in his system, along with marijuana. And I guess his heart gave out, or in some way. Again, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what a conflict that THC and marijuana can have with other. Maybe it was just the drugs alone. Let me not assume, because that's what I read, that they found a cocktail of prescription drugs and weed, but I'm assuming that weed had something to do with it. It could have been the prescription drugs that were clashing with each other. It had nothing to do with weed. So excuse me. So who knows? But that's what they did, I guess, when they did a toxicology report. But the brother was, he set his mark in hip hop, and also 90s hip hop artist Hurricane G. She did her thing when she did a song for a number of people, but especially with Redman. Man, kick that funky, stop with all that smooth shit, hit with that gangster, whatever. You know what it is. You know what that line if you listen to Redman. So yeah, man, rest in peace to both of them, and condolences to their family and close friends and everybody in their circle. Thank you for contributing what you did for hip hop. So we have a touchy subject to discuss, and everybody knows at this point the whole controversy that's happening with Kyrie Irving and the what he posted with a documentary. And it blew up. So, the pressure is put on Kyrie Irving, and he's doing a number of things to try to turn things around. He's had some press conferences where some journalists have labeled him as, why are you marketing this movie Hebrews to Negros? And, he made his defense to the journalists, and, there was some blowback on it. There was some blowback. Now, he's suspended for 5 games. He tried to donate some money to, I think, the ADL, he tried to donate some money to, and they turned it down. But then later, the NBA came forward and was like, he needs to do about 5 things on the bulleted list before he could come back and play for the NBA. So a lot of people are saying, they putting this brother through the rigmarole and jumping through hoops of fire in order to, break his spirit, as far as what he was doing as being labeled anti-Semitic and such and so forth. So a lot of people are coming out against Kyrie Irving. A few of them was Shaq. He had some words to say. They asked LeBron. He had some words to say, but then there are other people that are supporting him, Kyrie Irving, for standing his ground on how he felt about the post that he made from the documentary. I didn't know there were several books on this, but there was a documentary put out, Hebrews and Negros. I forgot the let me see here if I can bring up the director, Hebrews to Negros. Director. Just see, who cares about the director? I think it's important, because if people want to do their own research or they want to know, it's good for them. It's good for them to know. So the director's name is Ronald Dalton Jr. I don't know too much about his background. From what I understand, he just grew up in a church and had questions, and then he went on his journey to try to put together this film. So the reason why I'm having a discussion about this documentary, of course, if you watch the show, I do a lot of different reviews on movies. I'm a movie buff. I love movies, anywhere from drama to action to, of course, what's got my attention right now, superhero movies. But I'm I'm really into everything at this point. So anything that catches my eye and that I like, I make a review on it, good or bad, or whatever it is, whether it's HBO, whether it's movie streaming, or on the big screen. So I figured what's really sparked my attention to this, other than the news things about Kyrie Irving, was that Jemele Hill, everybody knows Jemele Hill, she made a comment on Twitter saying that, it was irresponsible for him to post something like this. It was anti-Semitic, yada, yada, yada. And of course, some people have hit back at Jemele Hill because they thought that she was not being real, for lack of a better word, in terms of what was happening to Kyrie Irving. And I was thinking in myself, and I read what Jemele Hill said. I'm like, okay, cool. She has a right to what she's saying, as everybody has a right to what they say about certain things. But I was like, what really sparked it, I was like, you know what? I can't really critique Jemele Hill. I can't really critique anyone that has an opinion on this film. I can't critique anything. I can't even critique the film. Obviously, you know why, if I haven't seen it. So I have to see it for myself, and then I can make an educated comment or open up the discussion on how I feel about this film and how other people feel about this film. So they said it was on Amazon. And they was like, yo, how, and then one of the arguments, of course, the kind of arguments is like, yo, how you going to be getting that Kyrie Irving and then Amazon is still playing this film if you feel that it's so hardcore anti-Semitic? And I did agree with that. I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to come down hard on Kyrie Irving, then of course you got to also critique the platforms that's actually selling it and making buttloads of money on it. Now, I guarantee you, because this whole thing blew up, everybody's watching it. Even on I saw on IG, people's like, yo, how can I get a hold of this film? And some people didn't want to pay for it, other people did. But they're definitely Amazon's definitely making money off of this damn film, this documentary. So anyway, so I went on Amazon and I checked it out. Yes, I saw it. I almost lost it because I kept falling. I was watching it late at night. It's like 3 hours long, this thing. So I'm like, damn, I'm getting tired. I'm passing out. And I thought I lost it because I rented it for like $10 on Amazon. It was the only thing I could do. What am I going to do? I can't wait forever to try to see this film for free. So that's why I said, fuck it. I'm just going to go to Amazon and just see this thing for myself. And I thought I lost it, but but I'm not going to mention it, but I figured out how to watch the film beyond the hours. So anyway, I'm not giving that up because I don't want anybody at Amazon to catch on it and kill that, because I think that's the little loophole. Anyway, so I got to see the film. So you're going to ask me, Nova, you saw this film. What do you think about this film? Okay, so Hebrews and Negros. There was some definite anti-Semitic parts in it. I'm not going to front. There was some definite anti-Semitic parts. What exactly was anti-Semitic about it? So the funny thing is, I'll say this. In the 3 hours of this film, there were probably 2 or 3 things in the film that people can label as anti-Semitic. Number one, in the first 8 minutes or 10 minutes of the documentary, they were talking, the director was talking about his journey when he was young, and then he started getting into the film. I think it was a waste for the first 3 minutes. I don't know what was going on. There were so many title openers. I'm like, just get to the damn film. But yeah, they were saying that, of course, in referencing the evil Jews. Excuse me. Sorry, I don't know what that was. Yeah, referencing the evil Jews and in their master plan to take over the world. There were 6 points that they were going to do to try to achieve their master plan, and one of them was to put forth the idea that the Jewish people were killed in the Holocaust was fake. Come on, bro. Let's not do that. Of course, that is superbly anti-Semitic. You cannot deny 6 million or 8 million Jews that got killed back in the 1930s in Germany. You cannot deny that. There was too much history. There's too much recorded information. That was ridiculous. I don't know where the director got that idea from, that he should put that in the film. That was dumb. The other thing that was bad was referencing Hitler. When he was talking about discussing the who was the true identity of the Jews, and once they laid out some information, this guy felt that it was okay to reference Hitler. I thought that was dumb. Now, they said he took it from a particular book. He took an excerpt from a book that, or a quote from Hitler in a supposed book, and also an alleged quote. It didn't come from a book on another words from Hitler. Not a good look, player. Not a good look. Very dumb, very dumb, very dumb. And sometimes I be thinking, I'm like, how can these dudes be so on point, or at least be so disciplined in their analysis of a particular subject matter, and then say something so off cuff? Yo. I was like, dude, why are you quoting Hitler? All right. Yo, what's the problem if someone would say to me, what's the problem if he quoted Hitler? It's not a big deal. You know, I know some people that bought Mein Kampf, the book that Hitler scripted, and, you know, they're not, you know, anti-Semitic. Okay, let's put it like this. Let's keep it real. Let's talk about people are having trouble with their money, right? People are trying to figure out, as consumers, as in your household, a way to save money, and one way to save money is their taxes. People are trying to figure out ways where they can save money in their taxes. You know, there's a variety of different ways. So all of a sudden, you get a tax expert that says, you find on IG and says, hey, I have a way for you to save money on your taxes, and how you can do it. All you got to do is come to my class. Of course, people sign up, they pay $100, they stay for the class. The guy is having a fantastic display on his presentation on how to save taxes. And in this guy's teachings, right, in his presentation, all of a sudden, he says, here's a perfect example of how you can save taxes. This is nothing new. Everyone knew about this. It's a well-kept secret. Listen to this guy that's going to give you the insight, just to let you know. And all of a sudden, he pans over to, say, the television screen or the movie screen, and then you see Jeffrey Dahmer come up. You see Jeffrey Dahmer come up in an unseen clip that nobody has ever known, and he is a tax expert, and he's telling you how to save money on his taxes. And then you can it could benefit you as well. Now, what do you think is going to be the reaction of people when they're seeing Jeffrey Dahmer giving tax advice? It's going to turn people off. People are going to be physically sick, and they're going to look at the presenter and be like, you thought it was okay to take tax advice from a serial killer? At that point, everybody's going to throw out all the information, whether it's good information or bad information. They could literally save $1 million in taxes. And whatever he presented, people will be turned off, and they will walk right the fuck out. And if they don't walk right the fuck out, people will literally throw away any material that tax presenter had on how to save money on taxes. As I said, people would literally be able to save $1 million. But because it came from the mouth of Jeffrey Dahmer, that sick fuck, people will not listen. That is not a good look on the director's part. If I was directing a film like this, I would keep him out the film. That was stupid. And of course, the Jewish community has every right to say the whole film is anti-Semitic because you are quoting Hitler. Will you take chef advice from Jeffrey Dahmer? But he made a beautiful casserole. But would you take cooking advice from Jeffrey Dahmer? No, because when you associate what he did to what he's doing and holding meat in his hands, it's going to sicken you. And people will turn the channel or turn off the DVD or the movie streaming. Nobody wants to hear what Jeffrey Dahmer has to say. He's a serial killer. The same thing with Hitler. He killed people. He killed 8 million Jews. Nobody wants to hear what he has to say. I don't care if he's going to tell me that Jesus is coming back for the second coming tomorrow. people are not going to listen. So they definitely had some right to say what the people had to say about that film in terms of that part. And they're talking about, the Jewish people were faking the Holocaust in order to achieve their objective, the massive plan of world domination. No, that's not going, and it's not gonna do well. It was stupid. It was very bad. It was very bad. And I could see why people saw it like that. There were probably one or two other parts, and I'm saying this as a loose review because it's a 3-hour movie. And if I wanted to properly dissect this film for you guys, I would have to rewatch it, and I wasn't about to pay another $10. And let me tell you something. When I thought that I lost the film, my rental, I was going to pay another $10 for it. I just so happened to bump into a way where I can continue watching outside the hours. So yeah, there was probably like one or two other parts that I'm like, questionable. Cut those out. It can easily be seen because I'm trying to be semi-surgical here from the 3 hours that I had to sit for this damn film. And the film was, it wasn't entirely polished. It was rough, of course. Cinematically, I guess you want to put it. It wasn't that great. But he got his message across with what he was trying to say. But once you remove all that other stuff out the way, the basic meat of the documentary just have some interesting stuff. All right, it does have some interesting stuff in terms of supporting his argument on black folks being the original Hebrews. And he goes through a variety of different things. He has DNA connections amongst the folk. He says there was ancient skeletal remains by researcher Dorothy Garud, I think. She worked in excavation findings in Israel, named Tabun, the El Wad, the Shukba, and the Kabara sites that has some DNA evidence of the connection of the people. In 2016, there was a genetic study from people in Northeast Africa who brought pastoralism and farming that dates back to the biblical times. And it was a study by a study named The Genetic Structure of the World's First Farmers by Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, spearheaded by Dr. AOC Lazaridis in the Department of Genetics at Harvard University, dealing with the Y-DNA of the Olurit tribe, the Dogon people in Mali, and the connections to the Native American peoples, and also the Australian Aboriginals, the Dravidian Indians, and the Black Arab Bedouins. So there were a number of different things evidence, the DNA evidence that he was displaying he was illustrating in his documentary. Also, there was etymological evidence of words connected to each other from different tribes and ethnicities and people. The etymology, of course, is the root words or the study of words as they make their passage through time and how they relate. Sometimes words don't just pop out of the ether. You can actually trace words or the root of words from one people to the next. Because they have a similar structure or how it's spelled, as added evidence to how a certain people is connected to another group of people through time. So there are a number of different things that he did add that I would say, if you would really want to debunk the film or the evidence, that's where the experts, and I'm not an expert, I'm a viewer just looking at this. And he does have interesting things in order to support his argument. So what I would encourage is experts in the field of linguistics that deals with DNA to study that 2016 genetic study and a variety of different evidence that all I didn't write because I was just writing quickly to jot down here to speak to you guys that can challenge that information and to see if those experts, not the director, if those experts were off the trail. That's when you get to really breaking down this film, because he does present it. I think if we just strip away all of and I understand where this is coming from, especially with everything that's happened with the situation with Kanye, with White Lives Matter and dealing with the anti-Semitism thing, DEFCON 3 or whatever he was saying. And now you have Kyrie Irving kind of throwing up a post, and they were saying he was promoting, and he was like, no, I'm just throwing up a post on a film that was said to be anti-Semitic. And I understand where there's a reaction from the Jewish community to be upset, because when you talk about these things in this way and it's not dealt with, then it can actually grow out of control, and all of a sudden you have this movement, an anti-Semitic movement, which of course is similar to what happened to the Jewish people in Germany. But I encourage people to calm down, to not get emotional in this situation, and really dissect this film. And I'm calling experts within those related fields to come in and see if the information that the director is sharing is false, or if he's taking it from someone or some people within these studies that were wrong. That's how science goes. I'm not gonna lie, even though it's not a well-made film, it's not exactly polished, the information in it is interesting, to say the least. What else? He also got some information on some quotes that were made from well-known Greek historians at the time. The first century Roman historian Cornelius Tacitus recorded the Hebrews were, quote, many again say they were a race of Ethiopian origin, unquote. That's what Cornelius Tacitus said at the time. There were many Greek historians that witnessed the characteristics of the Hebrews being black. And there were a number of different, there was about 3 or 4 other quotes. So, we can challenge that too. Experts in the field, did these Greek historians, did these Roman historians quote or make known of the characteristics of the Hebrews of the time? So this is what we have to do to really break down this film and really see where it went wrong and where it went right. And we can take that information from there. And I encourage people from the Jewish community, Hasidic Jewish community, whether you're from Israel or from anywhere around the world, to challenge this film and break it down. Now, this is my take. And that's just a loose view on this film. I think, in conclusion, this whole film, and I thought, this is a Hebrew Israelite film? Because there's a sect of black Hebrew Israelites that I've known through the years since I was in high school that quotes from the Bible. They stand on the street corners in New York or any borough and they quote from the Bible, and they're very, they're very excited and in your face about certain things. And, I just never liked it, because I didn't think that coming from reading from people that have come up in universities and did their studies and did their research, and it took years to really gather up their arguments and then presenting it within the books that they wrote or in the halls of academia. I always thought that the way that, Hebrew Israelites, I just didn't like the way they came off. It was very like, I'm going to be real, it's very bullying. If you want to get people within your sect, you don't bully those that you're trying to pull in. And I just found it distasteful, but that's my opinion. So I don't expect people to just walk away from this film all of a sudden to become Hebrew Israelites. I didn't take it like that. I didn't take all of a sudden I got to be like, start cursing people out. I did not take it like that. I took this film as what we always knew in the black community, but it is becoming more of an understanding in the greater society about the history of human beings. I took this as African people being the first civilization. That's all, plain and simple. Nothing big, nothing grandiose. It's something that black folks have always knew in their communities. As far as, you can say it's in hip hop. We spoke about it back in the day in hip hop with X-Clan, with Brand Nubians, with KRS-One. This conversation is not new. This conversation is not new. Take it like this, right? In my rough understanding of human history, we understand that the first humans came out of Africa, right? And what we all know is Lucy, right? Lucy is like the oldest bones that were found in Africa to show that human beings sprouted out from the continent. All right. And Lucy's was what, 3.2 million years ago. And then Homo sapiens eventually came out of that roughly 200,000 years ago. And out from that, the first agrarian society started to develop after humans figured out, wait a second, we can't keep on roaming these lands. We kind of have to settle in and be sedentary. And out from that sedentary life we got our agriculture, living in an agrarian society. And that sprouted out from Egypt, Nubia, and the area Mesopotamia. Of course, they say they also developed in South America, but human beings created an agrarian society from Nubia, Egypt, and the area called Mesopotamia. Excuse me, I'm mispronouncing it. Mesopotamia. So hold on one second. Okay, drinking some tea. And if we understand that, once you have an agrarian society, eventually human beings start to move into other things as far as higher education, the sciences, hierarchical order of their political system, their social order, their food, the how they move. All of these things start to be they begin to work on these things, and they get established once human beings figure out their way in one specific area. And now we have a society, ancient Egypt society, ancient Nubia society, what the society to develop. And from there, if we want to get into the Bible, from there, you will have Genesis, you'll have Leviticus, you have Joshua, you have Job, you have Ecclesiastes, you have the Habakkuk, you have Malachi. That was from the Old Testament. And in the New Testament, you'll have Matthew, you have Mark, you have Timothy, you have John, you have Revelations, right? Some of these chapters in the Bible. And then there's arguments about the Bible, if it's real historical references over the time, or is it an allegory? And I think over the centuries, over the thousands of years, it's been a mixture and fusion of that. And of course, you have the King James Bible, and what we say the King James Bible, it was rewritten so many times. The King James was a king at one time and rewrote the Bible and for his own means. Is a particular, I forgot, King James, what particular period? Let's see here. King James period. 1603 to 1625. Let's see, Bible. The King James Version at that time. And they say it's been rewritten so many times to fit their own personal agenda, these folks, King James and all of these people. That's the argument, that we can no longer use the Bible because we don't know what's the true word of the time. And then things get lost in translation as it gets translated to the many different languages around the world. But essentially, we know the Bible is just a snapshot of how people lived in the time of zero, in AD, a little bit AD, in BC. Okay? That's what we understand. And if we understand that Lucy was the oldest bones that we found in Africa, the agrarian societies developed in Egypt and Nubia and Mesopotamia. Sorry, what's going out that word? And within that time frame, you had these different chapters that were put together that we understand it today as the Bible. You can understand where, from common sense, you'd be like, okay, based on all this evidence, what would the identity be of these people? So like I said, we spoke about it many times in the books that we've read, in the black community have read, and our black scholars have read, that we spoke about in our barbershops, that we've actually discussed in our own sects or our own circles in school, in college. And like I said, it was in rap songs. Wu-Tang talked about it, Brand Nubian, X-Clan, KRS-One. All this says is the African people were the first civilization. We were, as what we say in the black community, original man. That's just what it was. As humans, we developed and created cultures and civilizations over the millennia, and we scripted scrolls to tell about what happened during that time period. At some point, these stories got retold, they got rehashed, remade, omitted, disappeared, trashed, buried, dug up, blown off. And we see all these things that are happening as far as the people, the Jewish folks, the Ethiopian Jews, the oldest church in Ethiopia, and then they're the Jews in Nigeria. I mean, we have to have that discussion. If we're gonna have an open discussion, an objective discussion about a particular people, why not have it? Remove the all that other fluff in there. I think that was something a bad choice that the director made. But then once you leave this evidence that we can go over and we can actually, all right, let's see if we could debunk this. Let's if this DNA evidence right, is it the linguistics, does it make sense? And ask the experts, we can come to our understanding of how humans kind of went from one place to the other, how humans were probably Hebrews, they were probably this sect of people, they were probably that sect of people, and it changes over time. It changes. No human is ever one thing. That's the beauty about humanity. We're all these things. And they have a variety of different ways of why certain ethnicities disappeared and why how other ethnicities survived. And I take that as my own personal journey that I figured out when I went on Ancestry.com, that even in the last 100 years, my ancestors have been so many other people. So who are we? And it begs the question, who are we actually? We're all of these things, or we're none of these things? Or it's just the story of human beings. And 1,000 years from now, we're going to be probably 10 other things. Whether it's pushed by war, it's pushed by personal choice, migration, whatever. And that's the beauty of humanity. So that's my take on the documentary. I don't know what's going to come. In a lot of ways, I kind of express my feelings about Kanye, and I posted that on IG and how black people we're kind of protectionists when it comes to our folks, and it's for a reason, because we know that living in a society they could be heavy-handed. It's funny that I said that before when I posted that on IG, and next thing you know, this happened with Kyrie. And I'm not saying I'm co-signing what Kyrie did. I'm just seeing the difference where how white society is handling Kyrie as opposed to what's happening or what happened to Brett Favre when those millions of dollars were stolen from poor people down in Mississippi. And it only what we see here only supports what I said on my IG page when I was talking about it. So if people want to see this film, you don't have to take my word for it. If people want to see this film, and if you say I'm not paying to see that anti-Semitic film, hey, that's fine. Yo, get it from somebody, burn it off of somebody, get it from a jailbroken Fire Stick. I don't care how you get it. I'm just saying, get it, check it out, and especially in the Jewish community, and let's have an objective dialogue. They always want, when these things happen, when celebrities make missteps or on purpose or whatever, the ADL, the Jewish community, says, let's sit down and talk with a rabbi. I'm with it. Let's talk with a rabbi. Let's talk with the Jewish Hasidic community. Let's get the experts together from academia and just hammer this stuff out. But what I'm saying is, this is not a beating of the chest to say who's the one true anything, but just to understand the travels, and whether it's in terms of how we migrate on land, and in terms of how we migrate in terms of culture, because cultures changes. As I noticed, cultures change from one generation to the next, man. One moment in time to the next. It's your people are one thing 150 years ago, and they're gonna be something else 300 years from now. And it's all documented. The only difference is we now have the technology to document it to the letter. So that's my take on this joint. Anyway, next, right here, yo, check this out. A Tribe Called Quest. A Tribe Called Quest, man, dropping the Low End Theory, man, 30th anniversary box set. I think they're releasing this joint, I think, with 45. Let me see if I still got it open. They're releasing it, a box set of course, some, it's like the handbook. They're gonna have 45 the smaller wax, the records, and they're going to release that here. The 7-inch collection is contained in the deluxe fabric wrapped 45 singles carrying case with 360-degree original album art and custom inner wrapped A Tribe Called Quest logo graphics and group photo. What? That is bonanzas. A Tribe Called Quest fans, they say prefer rare vibes. Get on that. They're gonna have some new music on there as well, unreleased music. So it's going to drop. Matter of fact, it already dropped. Oh my God, it's already out there. I encourage people to go and check it out. Go to getondown.com. Purchase your joint is $130. I know I'm getting it. I don't own any record joints. I don't have any record players. But I just want to have it just to have it, because I'm looking at this box set now and it's crazy. Oh my God! So I encourage everyone. I'm a Tribe Called Quest fan, and it was a great period in time for hip hop, and I'm definitely gonna put that away, man, for real. I'm gonna get that joint. So hopefully it's not like a limited release, but I can get my copy out. I'll get my copy soon. All right. So the next thing on the list, man, we have some serious issues right here is going on in the Web3 world that I'm at. It always hurts my heart right now. It is crazy. So we have another company that's bottoming out right now. It's called FTX.com. It's a cryptocurrency exchange platform, and it is founded by Sam Bankman-Fried. Unfortunately, the SEC, the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, is investigating this crypto exchange for mishandling customer funds as well as certain crypto lending activities. $6 billion of money was withdrawn from the platform in 72-hour period. So pretty much it is nothing. So Mr. Bankman-Fried was trying to get support from the Binance owner, CZ. CZ is the owner of Binance and a China-owned company. Let's see here, Binance owner. I want to get his real name. Changpeng Zhao, but he's known as properly known as CZ, the two letters. So he was trying to get bailed out pretty much from CZ, and CZ backed out. So the story is a little bit deeper than that, and I'm kind of digging myself in. So it's a little bit more detailed than that, and I'm kind of digging into this to try to figure out where exactly that FTX went wrong. And from what I've seen initially from researching this, it seems that there was just some bad deals and transferring of assets within FTX to support their other sister organization, Alameda Research, that's also owned by Sam Bankman-Fried, and it's also a cryptocurrency trading platform. So there's a lot of some bad management that's going on over here. And initially, I believe that CZ funded FTX, and things went sour between Sam Bankman-Fried and CZ, and the people from FTX was calling out Binance for not helping them trying to acquire further funding, I believe. And then CZ was like, hell no, I'm not doing that. And then unfortunately, it started to bottom out with their other sister organization, Alameda Research. And then Mr. Sam Bankman-Fried tried to re-engage with CZ to kind of prop them up to ensure that they wouldn't go insolvent. And CZ initially agreed. And eventually, I guess he was doing some research with his people on how this deal would benefit Binance by pumping up Alameda Research firm, and that didn't work out. And CZ tweeted that he was no longer going to put money into the organization or buy FTX's assets in order ways to get some money to kind of prop up the platform. So that's roughly what I've been reading about FTX and how Sam Bankman-Fried was dealing with this. But again, I'm not getting the whole story here. I'm trying to figure out exactly where Alameda Research failed. Well, one of the deals that Alameda Research was dealing with did not come through. And they were trying to get a loan for $500 million from another crypto lending organization, and it fell through along with some other bad deals. And that's why Alameda was having some issues, and it connected to FTX. And of course, when the word got out, Sam Bankman-Fried says he was trying to tweet out to his people that the company was doing fine and they were going to work some things out. All the while, he was trying to figure out where he was going to get his next source of cash. Funding in order to prop up the company, but that didn't work out when CZ finally pulled out, and FTX really bottomed out, man. I think it was just bad management by the owner, Sam Bankman-Fried, and that's the problem. The technology is not the problem. All these issues that we're hearing with Terra, we're hearing with this latest company and tons of other companies, is not so much as the technology. Probably one or two things, stories that we've heard that it deals with the technology, but those things to get worked out. Where you see the leaks, you kind of plug them up and make the system better. But the big problem is the people that are running these companies that get full of themselves, thinking they know what they're thinking they're God, because this company was making untold, ridiculous amount of money. Like, for instance, Alameda Research is saying as of April 2022, Alameda Research manages over $1 billion in digital assets and trades between $1 and $10 billion per day across thousands of major coins, altcoins, and their derivatives. So this is where Sam Bankman-Fried can feel godlike and then make decisions that's bad for the company. And that's the problem. And a lot of people are getting discouraged with the crypto world right now because all of these deals, they're losing billions, cajillions of dollars in mere hours. Of course, anybody that's watching that from the sidelines is not going to want to get into cryptocurrency because of that. But I don't think people should fret, man. I think this is good for the cryptocurrency market, that we can kind of squeeze out the people that are irresponsible as leaders of these organizations for these platforms, and then we can really start to screen in people that want to have a sound company that's going to be good for the Web3 market in whatever way, in DeFi and GameFi, and having a cryptocurrency exchange or NFT marketplace, whatever it's necessary, because there are too many people that are just walking or waltzing into this market and with the connections that they have, and then all of a sudden they blow up to be a multi-billion-dollar company, and then their ego runs away from them and they do bad deals, and so many people get left out, especially the users that lose out. Right now, even FTX.com, I went to FTX.com to check them out, and people are locked out. They said it's been, let me see here. And we go to FTX.com, FTXX.com. No, I didn't do it right. It's back on. They said the people were locked out at some point. I guess they were trying to get some things straight behind the scenes to try to save the company. But yeah, people were locked out. They were saying something. It was private. It was made private, and people couldn't go in there. I guess because they wanted to stop people from trying to make a run on the FTX. Like, it's the same situation concept as make a run on the banks, where if you know that the bank is failing, everybody's going to run and try to get their cash out as quickly as possible before they lose it. It was the same thing that was what was happening with FTX when they were losing like billions of dollars in a 72-hour period. They were trying to kind of stop the hemorrhaging, but now it looks like it's back on. And we'll see how this goes. But what they're saying here, there's a red banner at the top, FTX.com, and it says FTX is currently unable to process withdrawals. We strongly advise against depositing. So they're trying to save this sinking ship, and it's a wrap. Next on the last thing I would like to say, actually, it's the second to last thing. Tiffany Cross got canceled with her Cross connection, and she got canceled last Friday, and it's sad. It's very, very sad. I loved. I never had an opportunity to watch a show, but I would see clips of it on IG, and she was a very straight. She was a straight shooter, and she did not cut any corners. She told you like it was, raw and uncut, and that's how Tiffany Cross got down. And it's sad that they cut her show abruptly without even having her say goodbye on her own show. And of course, it was a lot of people that were upset that she was so raw and uncut, and that's how it was. Because even sometimes I'm listening to her, I'm like, I don't know if the network is gonna keep you on there, because you know what it is when you keep it too real as a black person. So, but they kept her on there, and that's what's up. They really want to hear what she has to say as far as the people that are on set, in the offices, and for those that are watching the show. It was actually one of the top rated shows on the network for the weekend, but they still cut it, and people are saying that they cut it because the November 8th, of course, voting, and I'll talk about that in a second. Voting was around the corner, so they didn't want to upset that in any way by Tiffany Cross talking that biz on her show Cross Connection, and they cut her off. So I don't care about it. It's expected. I'm really not surprised. I think Tiffany Cross is a sharp lady, and she's going to get another show someplace else. They'll pick her up, and I encourage her even to do her own thing, start her own podcast or whatever, so she can talk that business and not have to worry about getting cut off because certain white folks in that office are getting a little bit too uncomfortable, sweating at the collar because they got to listen to Tiffany Cross give them the business. So Tiffany Cross is gonna be all right. There's no fretting how she's gonna come across. Anyway, the next thing that I'm gonna talk about here is this voting deal. We just got past November 8th. I was trying to talk about a little bit about what happened beforehand, what the Republicans were talking about, Democrats were talking about, and the whole ordeal with the upcoming date for November 8th. And yeah, man. But I didn't get to have an opportunity to talk, but I'm definitely going to talk about it now. So, all right. So I did my voting. I did my voting early, like a couple days before, 4 or 5 days before. And I encourage people to vote. As I always said on the show before, you guys have to vote. I don't believe in not voting at all. I think it's very narrow-minded. It's kind of like 3-0 thinking, because why are you going to sit there and not vote, and then you're going to have your enemy, true-to-life enemy, just waltz right into office, and then they're going to pass legislation that is going to be against your own well-being? I don't believe in that. I think that if people are not going to vote, I understand if there's two candidates that you don't like, and there's plenty of candidates that is out there that have been talked about on CNN and all the other major news media sites that we don't particularly like. But at the same time, you have to be strategic with it. And I tweeted something to that effect. You got to be smart in how you vote. You have to be, even if it's a vote that is going to go towards someone that you don't necessarily like, at least it'd be a vote for harm reduction. So yeah, so I went to the early voting center. All right, I did as much. I did some research as best as I could, and basically just, and it's really not that deep. All you got to do is Google people's history or their movements and what they've been doing throughout the city, and then you're going to a website. One that I went to was Vote 411, I believe, and you can actually go and see what they're actually talking about. And I can't remember the other site, but you could definitely just Google it and see what legislation they supported or they haven't supported. So you don't want to go about and hang by the words that they say. You want to actually stand by what they do, not by what they say, but what they do. And, once you start getting involved, you start to see all the cracks and the issues and the problems when it comes to the voting system, especially on a local level. The place that I went to was pretty empty. Now, granted, it was 4 or 5 days before November 8th. But, I was expecting to see a little bit more people. There was probably like 2 or 3 people, and they were trickling in. But it made me think of Gary Chambers, and unfortunately he did lose in Louisiana. Gary Chambers, he was trying to run. I forgot who was his running mate. It was that fool that was like, that guy was like saying, if don't vote for me, vote for a crackhead. Some silly ass campaign ad that he had, and but Gary Chambers, it was on his post. He was pretty much saying on the IG post that he was talking about the amount of registered voters who happen to be black from county to county in Louisiana, and it's just sad that he was saying some pretty depressing numbers, that you had registered voters in the 20s and 30,000s, but only like 2,000 people to vote. Like, people are not coming out and they're not being active. And I kind of understand that, because to me, that's a sense of a lack of hope and a feeling that they don't think the political process worked for them. And I don't think so. I think there's powers in numbers, and you actually have to use the vote, but also other things in order to get what you want on a local level. So, but I went up in there, I did my thing, and I stood there for a while. But here's the wild part. So when I went to the vote 411, I saw the governor, I saw the comptroller, I saw the attorney general, the state assembly person that we had to vote for on a local level. What do you call it? Who else was on the bill? It was a state assembly person and a couple other people. I'm not going to go through everyone that I was researching. But yeah, I want to vote 411. Each one of them had probably like 4 or 5 questions that they asked the candidates, and they gave their spiel on what they think should happen in New York. And sometimes it's like, okay, cool, I hear that. A lot of it is, you're going to hear what they're going to say, just so that you can get an idea of what they would do or what they would advocate for once they get into that position. But you also want to pay attention to what they're not saying, or what they don't support and that they don't necessarily bring up. So, I read every bit of information that I can. And they had all the typical positions there, as I said, governor and such and so forth, say assembly person, comptroller, AG, yada, yada, yada. But there was one piece of information that wasn't on Vote 411 that was not on the ballot. There were candidates that were on the ballot that wasn't on 411, and that was the judge for the New York Supreme Court and judge for the civil court. Now, wait a second. I thought these folks were important. How come they weren't on Vote 411? Now, let me just backtrack a little bit. So vote411.org has a feature on the site where you can actually pick your candidates. And based on the answers that they gave the questions, you could click saying, okay, you select this person, and it will draw up the candidates that you voted for. And you can actually, within that feature, email or text yourself so you know who exactly that you want to vote for, which I thought that was kind of cool. I'm like, sometimes you're not going to remember everything. So I went to the text, I opened it up. Okay, make sure that I'll go for this person, go for that person. But the candidates that were not on the mock ballot on Vote 411 was the judge of the New York Supreme Court and the judge for the civil court. And I was like, yo, wait a second, what's going on here? I don't know these people. So they had a list of 4 people for the civil court and a couple of people in New York Supreme Court. And my thing is like, so I don't know any of these people. I only see names. How can I make an educated selection of who I want to be as the judge for the New York Supreme Court, which is very important, and the civil court? And I, of course, I was there for like 20, 30 minutes. I mean, to the point where somebody came up to me and one of the volunteers came up and was like, you all right, son? You don't need... Nah, I'm cool. I was like, I'm not moving here. I'm not going to pick eeny, meeny, miny, mo. So I went and I Googled each name. Now, there wasn't much of a online presence to any of these judges. I was trying to look for social media, photos, pictures, sayings, articles, something that I can pick out where I can get an idea who these folks were. And they were pretty non-existent for most of them. But the thing was, this is the deal. The thing was, let me fix my mic. The thing was that for those that didn't have a social media presence, it was a little bit here and there. It was a little bit here and there. And my mic is kind of, I don't know why this thing is not it's messing up. So I figured because the reason why they didn't have much of an online presence, they wanted to show, I guess, I don't know. They didn't want to show any of their own personal ideas leaning towards certain ways, so they can seem to look impartial or objective. So I can understand that, but others did have a presence. They, even for those that did have a social media profile, and they probably didn't have like 2 or 3 pictures, not a whole lot. There was a few that actually did have a bunch of pictures, glad handing folks and, taking pictures of folks in the community. So, I mean, I couldn't get as much information as I could from what I could find, but for me, I want to find anything. If I can find any information on what type of gum they like, what type of sneakers they like, what neighborhoods they're in, who they're taking pictures with, anything that could give me an indication of their thought process, because I'm not going to, pick someone eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and then all of a sudden they turn out to be some styling individual, that we allowed up in the New York Supreme Court. Now, I want to make sure that I pick the right person if they, based on what is in front of me. So I did as best as I can, and I made my selection. Now, there was one selection that I didn't like. It was the state assembly person. And this state assembly person that I didn't vote for actually won. Guess how many votes that this state assembly person won by? 200 and something votes. 200 and something votes. And that's how important voting is. Because if they won, I mean, it's a small number compared to how many people are living in a particular area. You can easily make 200 plus votes, and that could be the decision on who's going to get in or not. So, and this particular individual does not match my own viewpoints on how we should be carrying ourselves, or how we should be interacting, or what we can get in as far as local politics is concerned for the people. I did not agree with what he said. And we'll make it our business to try to get this individual out. So, but this here is the thing. So it was the candidate that I didn't like, and the candidate that I was actually getting mail from, right? And she had her mail coming out. She had her, her ad campaign mail. It was all good. But the wild thing was, when I went on vote411.org beforehand, the gentleman that I didn't like he answered the questions in his column, and I went to her column. It was nothing. So I found it kind of peculiar that she didn't fill out the questions to what she felt was her position. But he did. That's why I didn't like him, because he was saying some craziness. He actually wants to reinstitute qualified immunity that's dead in New York City. One of the things that ex-mayor de Blasio, that's one of the good things that he did. He wants to actually reinstate that. He's all for pro bail. He doesn't believe in bail reform. He wants it all the way, bring it back. And if there's some things that we have an issue with that. But yeah, I did not appreciate the fact that these judges were not listed in Vote 411. So I did the best that I could. I answered that, and I picked the individual that I liked here. The more you dig, the more you figure out that there are some things that the folks that are putting together this ballot, or those that are in charge of their own campaign, will do little things to kind of turn things around on the voter. I remember where there was one, I forgot what you would call it, but if there's a decision or there's particular legislation that the people want, and they're just trying to get a general understanding, and they'll put it on the ballot. So for instance, clean water and clean pipes and all that thing. That was one of the things that was on the bill. Matter of fact, let me just bring it up here right quick. Let me see if I can bring it up. Vote411.org. And they actually ask you if you would like clean water. So you go to the site, right? And then it will say personalized ballot. So you put in your address, right? Submit, no thanks. and it's going to come up with, go to my races, and it lists everything. Boom, 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 boom. So you got Senate, state governor, state attorney general, comptroller, the Clean Water, Clean Air, Green Jobs, Environmental Bond Act. So that's actually on the ballot. So they're basically asking you if you want to support this or if you're against it, and you can vote for it. Of course, I voted for it. So sometimes there was one, it wasn't this, it was from the last election that I went to. It was, this question was fashioned in such a way where I'm like, wait a second, is this a test? It wasn't straightforward. Are you for instance, let's just use this one. Are you for clean water, clean air, green jobs, environmental bond? Of course, that makes sense. Who's going to say no to that, right? But this question on what they were asking, because I can't remember it off the top of my head, they were not giving you a straightforward answer. It was kind of a twisty, turny, like in a way where, wait a second, should I vote yes? Wait a second, what is it trying to tell me? I had to read it a couple times. I'm like, what? Why is it telling me this in this way? Why don't you just say, and I do remember that because my first initial thought is, why don't you just ask a yes or no question? That's it. Are you for or are you against? Why are you fashioning this question in a way where it's not, if the people vote, if they don't really think about what they're reading, they can actually vote against something that they're for. So once you get down into the nitty gritty, into the local politics, and you go and you check out your candidates, you see any acts or legislation that you want to back, once you have your eyes open, you'll see how there's certain things that they intentionally do to try to confuse you or keep you from voting for the person that you want. So that was my experience as far as the voting is concerned. I encourage people to vote in their local area. It was not a red wave as everybody thought it was going to be, especially Republicans. Did take some L's, of course. The Democrats did, and I'm saying this not as a Democrat because I'm neither a Democrat or a Republican. The Democrats did take some L's, but it was not as big as the Republicans said, as the red tsunami. That did not happen. Actually, Pennsylvania was flipped, and it was given to Fetterman, I believe. Let's see that. See that dude's name. Boebert is out. I know a lot of people didn't like Boebert. She was out. She got taken out of here. The surprising thing, John Fetterman. Now he's a U.S. senator in Pennsylvania. So the surprising thing is Warnock versus Walker. That's the wild part. And I know before, when they were talking about reparations and Warnock didn't really answer the question, I'm like, wait a second, are we playing this game? This is something that is an issue that's specific to black people. How are you not going to answer this in a way? It was wild, and I didn't like that. In this way, I was like, okay, if you don't feel like voting for Warnock, that's fine. But don't vote for this guy Walker. This guy is a freaking turnip. This guy he's got shit for brains. But we know why he's there. But the wild thing that I would like to say is how, in God's name, and I understand, Nova, you just said, because I listen to the show, don't vote for Warnock, whatever. I understand. But it's just wild. It's just wild that this dude tied with Walker. Herschel Walker tied with Warnock. That's why, and they're gonna have a runoff, I think in December or January, one of them. So I'm like, this, and of course they were trying to make it seem that that there was a little whispers that black men weren't voting in Georgia, and that's why Stacey Abrams lost. No, Stacey Abrams didn't lose because there was a lack of black male votes. No, they lost because a lot of the white folks down in Georgia did not vote for Stacey Abrams. The Latinos came in at half, and it was what it was, right? So that's why it's important to vote, and I also believe in strategic voting. Vote, of course. If you don't like any of those individuals, vote for someone based on harm reduction. You're not going to put someone in and they're going to put some policies together. It's just going to harm you or your family. And of course, I believe in long-term voting, strategic voting, and I also believe in grooming your own politician that's coming from your neighborhood, so you can ensure that they're going to represent you once they win and get in the building. So it's just not a matter of not voting alone. That's stupid and that's short-sighted. That does nothing for you. But you have to vote smart and you have to make it work for you. And sometimes it's just not about voting, it's about supporting your candidate, because if they do stand outside of the establishment, they are going to get pushback and they're going to get isolated within those halls. That's why it's important that the communication is open between the candidate of your choice and the community has to come out and represent their candidate by going by city hall or being in the streets, protesting, doing whatever is necessary, so you can show that the establishment that you mean business, that you want these things for your community. That's what needs to be done, not just in New York, but it needs to be done in Louisiana. These people got to find and get the battery in the back and make sure they go hard. Now, my thing is, if you could go hard, and I'm talking to all those voters, if you could go hard against each other to the point is where your life is in danger because of some beef or something in the hood, you could go just as hard for what you want that's needed in your neighborhood. What's the difference? If you're going to fight and if you're going to risk your life for some stupid situation that's happened in the hood, why not do it for a more noble reason if they try to stop you in voting or if they try to stop you in trying to have a quality life? It doesn't make any sense. We have to change our perspective here. So anyway, I wanted to mention something else, but I'm going to leave it till the next show. There was something in reference to Takeoff's death and certain things that we have to change in our hood, in our neighborhood. I'm still not ready. It's an 8-point proclamation on how we could change things in the hip hop culture, in the black community, and in black culture, because we are the core, we are the drivers of the art form, and which is essentially American culture. And I think it's necessary for us to kind of adjust the way we've been doing things for the last several years. And, when Pac and Biggie died, the conversation was at the time that, we can't have this happen. This is not what artists have gotten into the music business for, to have to worry about dying and having their life taken. So there was a number of rappers that have been killed or murdered, certain behavior that's been going on, and you're gonna tell me, Nova, what are you talking about? We ain't gonna change what we do. I'm saying that I think we need to take responsibility for ourselves and how we move about in this country, how we behave with each other. And I think this 8-point proclamation will be something that that should be put out there, just to show the artist community that the people want something different, that there's no confusion. A lot of times people take the word of artists as if that is the word of 45 million black folks in this country or the younger generation. I think it's important that we speak and let the world know, let America know, let people that are at the forefront of this music business know that not everybody is down for the bullshit that they be peddling to us. And it's important that we get on one accord, we get on one page and let our voice be heard. So anyway, I'll get more into detail next week. And I'm gonna get out of here, guys. I appreciate you listening to me. And hopefully you guys walked away with something, especially with this whole thing with this documentary. If you don't want to see that documentary, I encourage to get it somehow, watch it. There are some parts, of course, that are problematic, and they need to get rid of those things. And it's not something that's one that I would say. Kyrie Irving is not the regular dude off the block. He's a basketball player. He's a well-known basketball player. Millions of people follow him on all across social media platforms. They watch him on TV. There's a certain level of responsibility and accountability that you got to have, because it's not like the dude on the block that's telling a couple of his friends and then all of a sudden it dies right there. If you are followed by millions of people and you have that influence, you have to be aware of how you can change people's minds based on what you share. And it can be used for great things, and it could be used for bad things. And the reality is, people follow the people that they look up to, that they consider heroes. And I think that's where I think Kyrie Irving slipped, and he should have, if he saw the documentary, he should have been a little bit more careful on what he posted, because It wouldn't have been cool if someone would have do something on the flip and then they're supporting, I don't know, Cecil Rhodes that killed millions of Africans and made Rhodesia a country in Africa. So, yeah, that's my take. Thank you guys for listening. I'll be, let me get out of here and go about my business. I got to send some emails and other things. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Yo, check it.
You just listened to GCOM Radio, powered by Lyfeblood.com for the global community.
We worldwide, baby.
See you in the next go round. From right here to your town, we out.